listening. Okay.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome
Hey.
to the Out of the Box Developer. Today, we have lots of people to talk about international career, right? It's great to have so many people because I believe that it is some topic that many developers, especially, are getting or wanting to enter in this field, right? I think it's for our careers when we are internationally enabled. So, well, if you are hearing us, please share with us your say hello here on the chat. Share from where you are talking from, and yeah, please post your questions. So because this session is to help you getting started with your own international career dev. And and yeah, to help us with this topic, let me just say hello to everyone here. So let me start from Thiago. Hey Thiago, how are you, man? Hello from what Lisbon, right?
Yes, yes, I'm talking from Lisbon. Hello, nice to see you.
Great,
Nice to see everyone here. How
great,
fine?
Thiago.
How are you?
Fine, fine as well. And Pedro also talking from Canada. Hey Pedro, how are you?
Hey, hey, Hugo. Nice to be here. Nice to see you all. I'm talking here from Toronto. Toronto is really cold today, like it was almost zero in the morning. So it's only fall, so we're waiting for the winter.
Okay, yeah. That's some other challenges, right? When you move from one country to another, weather changes a lot. And let me say hello. Hey, Bruno, I'm seeing you. I'm going clockwise here. So good
Yeah.
to have you here, man.
Hey Hugo, how you doing, man? So I'm here in São Paulo. I'm actually here with Luis. So Luis is right there.
Yeah,
Also, yes, right. So we're in the same room here. Here in São Paulo, we're in the FIAP offices. There's going to be an event in a few more minutes, and so I just come here to say hello to everyone. Awesome, good to see so many of you guys here and everyone pursuing their international career. That's great.
that's amazing. And Igor, hello, Igor.
Hey, hi guys, how you doing? I'm talking here from the modern futuristic city of Limeira in the interior of São Paulo. Here the oranges have a Tesla technology, and that's it. The only thing. Great subject. It's a great subject about international career. Either if you're aiming to living abroad or if you just want to work from anywhere. We have a lot to discuss here. It will be very interesting subject.
Yes. Yes, yes, we have a lot of questions, and but just before starting with that, I want to say hello to Luis as well. Luis, you said hello from Bruno's camera, but hello to you.
Hello, everyone. So, as you know, I'm here in Sao Paulo, and it's really nice to be here again. I think it's my second time here. So, thanks, guys.
Great, great. So I see here a comment from Miguel. Hello, Miguel. Good to have you here. Hello, Andres from Lima, Peru. That's amazing. So yes, I think most of people have some interest, different interest on starting their international career. Uh, but I think the main question is how can we start? What should we do to get started with this? What should we be looking after? Um, I don't know if there's Pedro. If you want to talk a little bit about some, you made this movement recently, right? And you were also helping people to do some of this movement on their career. And what is the usual questions that you get from the people, or what are the biggest challenges that people usually have when they start to with these challenges when they start to try to move internationally. Let's just start small.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is a very good question because every time we see we we talk to people who want a career, we see that everybody struggle to find opportunities. This is one of the biggest stuff. They always say, "Oh, where can I find job opportunities to work abroad, remotely, or to move out?" So I think this is one of the very first questions. And but of course there are lots of other questions like, oh, and the second one is, how do I receive, how do I receive my money when I'm working in this way. So I think these are very interesting questions that people ask. And of course when I start talking here with my mentees and when we're having our meetings, this is one of the very first things we discussed, because of the word is not only LinkedIn, right? So this is this is one of the very first thing. But yeah, it's uh, when you want to start international career, it's something that uh, uh, it's not exactly the same as we are looking for a job in your country. But
No, I think
All right, Pedro.
Pedro.
Yes, Pedro
LinkedIn
disappeared.
dropped here.
Yes. All right. So one interesting thing is that you're talking about what's required, right? The first thing that's required, and I see Kleber here is asking why we're speaking in English, and of course, this podcast here, it's not today we have this situation that we have all Brazilians here, right? But usually this podcast has people from all over the place, right? So we have not only gas, but Tila is an organizer here. Um, um, Douglas is an organizer here, and he's from the U.S., right? So we have all kind of people here, but that's one of the things, right? If you want to do international career, the very very first thing is that you're going to be able to communicate. You have to be able to communicate in English, right? No matter. I see Tiago here. Tiago lives in Portugal, and his international career is to Portuguese speaking country, but it's still it's in English. It's fundamental, even if you're going to do if you're going to work in Portugal, for example, right? So I was in the Lisbon user group some time ago, and in the Lisbon user group, the discussions are happen in English. The talks happen in English, exactly because there's so many international people. And I think that's the one interesting thing is that for the international career, the official language is English. No matter where you go, no matter where you're going to work at, if you want to have an international career, English is going to be fundamental one way or another.
Yeah, I would like to add a fun fact about Portugal. Since they don't dub their movies or games, it's all only subtitle in English. So Portuguese people usually speaks English very well. So they are used to speak in English, but they have lack of handwork of professionals. So there are fields everywhere for anyone, but absolutely, if we are talking about international career, you have to understand what we are saying. That's first question. And this is one of the steps that I did during my career in the last years when I was pursuing to go internationally. I was practicing with apps. Could be a Duolingo, it could be also Speak, and there is also used a lot Cambly with native teachers. If you want to practice your English, you can use Cambly. You can even find out Brazilian that lives abroad in Cambly. I'm not doing any advertising for Cambly. I'm not having earning anything from that, but that's a tip for you that wants to practice. There are also another platforms that you can use there, and these are the ways that you start to get more prepared. But even with that, even after 2 years of Cambly, when I started working, you start to talk with Indian guys, and they do not speak like Americans. They sound very differently. So you have a lot of struggle, a lot of fight, it's not only technical. If you are only thinking about Java, .NET, Python, you're not going internationally. You need to communicate. It's not only programming languages. You really need to know other languages. And I believe YouTube has a feature that you can generate automatic subtitles here if you're not understanding everything we are saying. So give it a try.
Yes,
Uh,
maybe someone's gonna have to answer to her in Portuguese on the chat, right?
yeah,
Okay.
Tiago
Yeah.
is going up and down.
Yeah.
I
All right.
put the wrong. Go.
So no, so you're talking about international career, Hugo, and there's all kinds of different things. When you talk about international career, guys, there's all kinds of different ways that your career can be international, right? You can have like most people think that, oh, international career is I'm gonna move to another country, right? That is like the top, let's say, the top way of having an international career. You're gonna work for a company, you're gonna move to another country, and you're gonna do that. That's a great way. Many people, especially since the pandemic, are considering international career when you stay in your country, but you're working for another country, right? So that could, it could be you're working for a company in another country. Many people are making like in dollars or euros, although they live in a place that don't use dollars or euros. That could be in Europe. There's a lot of people that have international careers by working for different, working from one country to another country. So remote work has allowed a lot this type of international career. But we also have other ways, right? You can if you're working for an international company, for example, you might like a multinational. If you're working for a big company like Microsoft or Oracle or IBM or whatever, right? I see that Luis, for example, has the IBM T-shirt, right? And so if you're working for a big multinational like this, you might be working in an international team, right? Where you're working with people all over the world, and you're working for, you might even have to be doing discussions and meetings, all this in English, and you're part of an international team. That's also another way to work internationally. Lots of people are doing freelance work, right? That they might be working for different companies, and some of them could be international companies. So there's a lot of modalities on international work. And I think that if you guys are watching us, if you have any question or what is the modality that you're looking for, right? Do you want to move to another country? Do you want to work and receive money in dollars and euros? What is an international career for you guys? So we can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and a
Yes.
natural path that I see here, since you mentioned all these modalities, Bruno, it's no matter where you live, you can start to look at something remote, and there's a difference that I've been experiencing these last weeks between home office and remote work. Home office is
Hmm.
something that were very common during the pandemic, that
Hmm.
everyone needs to work from somewhere, and the safer place are on their home. And many people believe that remote work can only be done on their homes. But this is not true. I've been experienced this last week working abroad, working, traveling, and even with my family. I will even be writing content about this because I found this very interesting. And you can become that's something that it was very famous some years ago, a digital nomad, even with programming, even with your family traveling with you. That's something that for you the freedom is one of your main beliefs. Pursuing an international career, remote international career, will be key, so you can travel to another countries that are even more expensive than yours, but it doesn't matter because you're earning in a strong currency. So it gives you freedom, and no matter from where you are, if you're from Peru, I know Andres is living in Peru, or he is from Peru, and if you're from Brazil, or no matter from where you are, earning getting an international career is not only good for your own career, for your international visibility, it's good for
Mhm.
your pocket and for your freedom. If you're looking on the remote way, the way that I've chosen, but we have here Pedro that can speak to us, we have Tiago that can speak to us, they have moved to another countries to work in their international careers in that country as well. That's, I would say, on my case, maybe the second or the third step. So I'm going step by step. I would like to hear from you guys too.
Yep, and before moving forward, I just want to answer Bruna Hayani. She asked for the to have legend the uh, how do I say that captions,
Subtitles.
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 Yeah, subtitles. Unfortunately, we don't have this resource here. So, but Victor, right below, he answered that after the recording on YouTube, you're gonna have the subtitles for the videos. So I hope it will be useful for you later. And we have one question here from Gabriel.
Mm.
Uh, he asked here, hey guys, one question for you. What is the best way to find great opportunities remotely receiving in dollars, US dollars, for example? Uh,
So he's asking the best way, right? So there's lots of different ways, right? I'm gonna say what I think is the best way, right? So and that's the best way for you to get a job, an amazing job in your country, but it's also to get amazing job internationally and remotely, and that is to meet people, right? You know, the more people you meet, the more people that know you, the more people that trust you, the bigger the chance that you have to have an amazing job, right? And so so we call this networking. I call it just making friends, right? Building relationships with people. A lot of times, what you want to do is, you need to be seen. You need to have some visibility. So for me, the best way to do is that you build visibility internationally. So this thing that we are doing here, for example, we're doing this in English with people outside from all kinds of different countries that are participating here. That is building international visibility. But there's all kinds of ways for you to build international visibility. You can do this through social media. You can do this to friends that you have, right? I'm sure you might have some friends that have working on international jobs, for example. Um, you might do this through like speaking engagement or to writing articles. There's all kinds of ways to build visibility internationally, but it's not visibility just for the visibility's sake. It's visibility for you to build relationships, because the best way to get amazing jobs is that having someone that you know that will call you, they're going to hire you to work for a company. So we're talking, and that works everywhere, by the way, right? So I was in an event in Ubatuba this past Friday, and the teacher was saying, right, that's what happens very frequently. There's one student that gets a job in a company, and suddenly like 10 students are going to go work for that company, right? And so that is the way it is. We build relationships, we make friends, and when those opportunities show up, they're going to call you. So go go build friendships internationally, right? Before you start worrying about looking for a job, go build international relationships.
I don't know if there's more. Someone want to add something. I think there's not similar maybe, but related question from Gustavo. But just let me go in order here. Andre, because what Igor mentioned, right, Andres just said here that one of the benefits remote international career is to earn often salaries, so strong currency salaries, and living on cheaper countries. And yeah, I think that's one of the benefits. But also I think other things, maybe just to be enabled to be open. International market is much larger than a single country market. So I think not just the currency, the benefit of the currency, but also being able to work in any country makes you makes the opportunity much better for you. The offers much better for you, and also safer, right? You can keep your growing your career in a much larger landscape. And I think related to the last question was from Gustavo. Also, a question here: some tip for someone that wants to move another country. He's living currently in Brazil. So anyone can help Gustavo with the question
Mm,
here.
yeah, it depends from where you're starting. If you do have any European nationality, that can be a big step if you want to move to Europe, to any of the countries in Europe, because you will earn your visa. You don't need visa. You have a nationalship, and you can work in any country on the European Union. If it's for the US, that's a different thing. US is way closer. And if it's for Canada, Pedro can tell us much better than I.
Yeah, and then I completely agree. It depends on the country you are, and depends on depends if, even if, for example, if you have a European visa.
Oh, I think
Okay.
there's going something wrong with our
Yes.
platform. Don't like Pedro today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Europe, you're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, Pedro is being censored.
I'm. I think Hugo is kicking me out here.
I'm not doing anything.
He is the only admin here, and every time I see myself being kicked out, I say, "Oh, I don't think it's my computer."
Really?
No, I'm kidding for sure. But what I'm
Something
saying,
trolling
what
here. Yeah.
yeah, I was about to say is that that if we live in Brazil, there is many ways to go to other countries, and in some easiest and some easier or some more difficult ways to come to Canada, for example. There are many ways to come, and but to get a green card, equivalent to green card here that we call permanent residence, is much easier than to get to US, for example. Right? But in Europe, I'm not sure, but I know that here in Brazil we have lots of ways to get citizenship for Europe, and for any Italian or Portugal. So we don't have any of these opportunities to US or Canada, for example. So and it so I can say that working on the visa part, if you wanted to move, is the first step.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot say a lot more about that because I'm also European, but I believe Tiago can tell us how you managed to move to Portugal, right? I don't know if you also have a citizenship the same way I do, or
No,
if
I
you got a.
don't.
So, how it was your experience to move to Portugal? How it happened and your visa?
Yeah, maybe in my case it was a little bit harder than in your case, but I think, and this may be a tip, if you want, IT it's a really nice area that has opportunities all over the world. So if you want, I think you are able to do that. But the first thing I think you need to do is do what you are doing right now. So study English, ask questions in English, try to do things in English, be used to that. I think there are other questions related with that. So uh, do you need to be fluent in English? Maybe have C2. This is not true, at least not for the many case. For some situations can be, but for the most of case, and the others can also share their experience. But in most of the case, if you know B2 level, if you are able to do a code challenge and explain the things, if you are able to do a pair programming, explaining everything in English, usually this is enough. Of course, it depends, but in most of the case, this is enough. So you need all to be able to explain things in English, understand things in English, and I think this is maybe the first step. Study English and then be prepared also for the technical interviews and things like that, and do all of that in English because chances are they are going to ask you in English. This was my case, probably the same for Pedro, and I think for everyone.
Yeah, for every one of us that are international, and especially for you, Gustavo, that are looking
Yeah,
for Australia, right? Australia looks
Australia,
like a
English.
lot like what Pedro did because they are very open to receive employees, especially
Hmm.
for IT, and their process is very similar. I do know that because I've been looking a lot on the Australia process some years ago. I don't know how much that has changed, but yeah, if you build a good career, you become a good programmer and you know how to speak English, you do have opportunities in Australia. Australia is not a closed country. It's a great place to go. It's
Yeah,
also on my list, I would say.
yeah. I
Cool.
had a very good a friend who works on Australia for like 15 years at Google, and he says that he just went to US of because of the career growth, but
Yeah.
if if it wasn't for that, he would stay there.
Yeah, especially if you enjoy the sun, the beaches, and nature, you can combine these things. This is something that I like. That's why I was experienced with digital nomading this last week, and it worked very fine. But I would also like to add something. If you're in a company that keeps you busy all the time with calls, wants you to be answering all the time, you cannot do digital nomad. It took me years to find out a company, an international company especially,
Mhm.
that it works asynchronous,
Asynchronous,
that
yeah.
yeah, and they respect your time. These are more mature companies, but if it's your goal as well, the same it was for me, you will
Mhm.
find at some time on your career this type of companies too. I do enjoy it because you can do the work at any time. It's asynchronous. It's a different mindset. It's very different, especially if you're from Brazil. Brazil is usually is that time that they want you to be there working and answering because I'm paying you per hour. That's a different mindset, different culture, and with these type of companies, you can do remote work, and you can do traveling while working, or you can also have your
Yeah.
own company. Bruno always talk about that, the freedom classes, right, Bruno? If you have your own company, you have your own product, you
And
just
you
do
can
it.
go international.
Yeah, I just say Pedro's gone again. Bye, Pedro. So yeah, I just think that you have to be careful that I think you said very well, Igor, that there's different styles, right? So working from home is one thing, working internationally is a different thing. Being a digital nomad, it's a completely different thing, right? So we don't need to do all those things to be an international career. You can easily work for an international company, for example, have a team of people working internationally, speaking in English all the time. Someone asked here, what can I expect as a native speaker? Do I need to be prepared for daily conversation, or companies expect fluent and very clear communication? So here's one thing, Anderson. No matter where you are, companies expected clear communication, right? That's very, very important. So clear communication, it's a skill. I'm not saying that you have to have an amazing English or amazing, they don't make mistakes, anything like this, but clear communication, it's very important. So, and one thing that I see, especially from Brazilians, a lot of times Brazilians disconsider how good their English is, right? So they think they have to have the perfect English and they have to pass on those international tests, right? And they have to whatever. You don't need any of that, right? You need to have a clear communication, right? So clear communication is different than having an amazing English.
Yeah,
Actually,
talking about
I could, I'm gonna send to Hugo here. That's special for the Brazilians here in the call. I'm gonna send for Hugo here a test that you can apply. It's called the English meter, right, or an inglesômetro. So if you go to inglesômetro.com.br, right, English, I'll put here for Hugo to put in the chat.
that's great. And talking about clear communication, that's on every language, Portuguese and English and Spanish. And I do also write content about that. If you're interested on knowing more about clear communications, that's on my focus, Bruno. Head out to
Yeah,
my blog, igorfragadev.com. We will be talking a lot about clear communication. Yeah.
perfect.
Luis, I want to hear you. I don't know if you're freeze. I don't see your video moving. Luis?
I think he froze.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
Okay.
okay, but we're just continuing here regarding to the interviews.
Yeah, go
We
on.
have yeah, Gabriel also asked about how to prepare. Oh, Pedro, drop it again. Gosh,
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
Luis, but okay, we are having some trouble with the platform today. Not sure what happened. But yeah, regarding to interviews, I think that is the most challenging part for most of us. And I'm not sure if recently if does something change. It was still companies applying those lead code challenges or hacker rank challenges. Still
They
the
do.
same thing.
They
Yep.
still do.
Yeah. Yes. I have been the interviewer for a while here in Portugal. I have done many interviews for Brazilians that want to come abroad, and in my opinion, it depends. Okay, it depends on the company. But many companies want you to do a code challenge, pair programming. So they will give you a challenge, and you need to solve this challenge live and explain things. This is very important because you need to know how to explain the solution in English. They want to know how you know how do you express the solution and understand the problem. This is maybe the most important things. But I think it's also very common to have, uh, at least in all my interviews that I have done, and also as interviewer and as also as being the interviewer, most of them they ask for the basics. So you need to know big annotation. If you are a Java developer, need to know about corrections. You need to know about uh, all the basics from Java, try cat exceptions, equals, hash code, the base. This is very important. And also, depend on your position, know about architecture, the patterns, clean architecture, and also other patterns. Probably nowadays you need to know REST because if you're using Java, probably you are a backend developer, so you need to know REST. You need to know some message broker, understand asynchronous and event-driven architecture, these kind of things. So yeah, this is what I see most of the case in the interviews. Questions that they want to know if you know, but again, depend on the position that you are applying.
Yeah. But what I see is for the position you're applying, try to figure out which technology they work on. And get to know about that. Java, if that's for Java position, Java is mandatory. If that's for that not .NET position, that's mandatory. But if there are any particular framework that that company uses and you don't know about that, try to know about it. But and also, most of all, since we are talking about international career, if you are not an English native speaker, try to explain it to yourself. Create your own project. You can get these tests from Lead Code, from Hacker Hank, and try to explain what you're doing, how you're solving it. So you will practice how you explain your logic. You will need to do that to the interviewer when you're doing a live code test. I did live code tests. I needed to do live code tests. I also needed to do projects. Most of them they are all live here. There's not that homework that they made us did in the past. I didn't like that as well. I do prefer live. It's much easier, much faster, and yeah.
Yeah.
Practice explaining what you're doing. Even if you don't finish your codes during the interview, sometimes the time is shortened. If they understand your logic, how you explain it, it's worth it. And you don't need to get all the syntax in your mind. You're not a compiler, but they need to see that you're getting the logic to solve the problem, and you need to communicate that clearly, as we have just spoken about it in English most of the time.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, unfortunately, I have to leave, right? Because I have I'm here in FIAP and I have a presentation to give in just a few minutes, and the guys came here to pick me up to go to the other floor. So, my last thing I'm gonna say here in terms of interviews, right? I love what you guys are saying. Communicate clearly when you're doing some, but the most important thing, speak, right? Two things you should do in interviews. First of all, don't be afraid of asking questions. You need, understand before you answer anything. It's very important that you understand what the question really is. You understand what the person is trying to say. It's very important that you understand the offer that they're trying to give you, or what kind of job they want you to give. So ask lots of questions, because asking questions show your interest, show that you communicate well, right? And then once you know what they're asking, uh, be clear on the answer. And especially if you're doing like a test, right? A coding test, for example, don't just code, right? Speak, explain to the person what you're trying to do, explain what your thought process, so all of these is about having clear communication. So the more you do, the more you communicate clearly, the better it's going to be for you and for everything that you're doing. Okay. So thanks everyone for the opportunity for being here. Sorry that I have to leave, but it's great to be here with you guys.
Great. Thanks,
Thank
Bruno.
you, Bruno.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Huh.
I don't know if Luis, you're gonna stay.
In just a few minutes. Are
Okay.
you listening me?
Yep.
Okay.
Uh, Great. I love the tips here, especially when Tiago mentioned a very specific technologies and concept that we should know, and in different levels, right? For the beginners, it's something it's the fundamentals. For more advanced positions, you're gonna need architecture and other technologies to be able to explain, and most of them we just fall into the same issue, right? The communication, being clear to communicate all the solution that you're building. And that's I believe that's at least for me is very similar when I have to interview someone. I'm much more concerned about if the person is able to under the hood, is he understanding what is producing that? Because in the end, you're gonna have to explain. You're gonna have to be very aware of what your code is doing, what if it's correct or not, or if it's expected or not. especially today we have ChatGPT and all these things that can generate code, but in the end, someone have to check if that's correct or not, right? The output is correct or not. And I think very similar for not just here. I'm here in Brazil, but not just here. I believe any other person that is hiring someone is looking after this. If it is a
Yeah.
serious person. But
Can I
sure.
add something? Yeah, my mentees are having like, lots of interviews as well, and I can see a pattern, in all these interviews. And because, for example, we see that in the beginning there is always a tag, a test, something that is for filter you out. So they put you on a test so we can filter many people there. So it depends on the opportunity. There is a lots of people applying. If you look at if you are looking only for the LinkedIn opportunities, there is a lot of people applying. So they have to do this kind of tests so they can filter out most of the people. And that's the point. So when you're doing only the test, you're just doing a test. So there is nobody seeing. There was one case with one of my mentees where the guy called for an interview and passed a test to be executed during the interview, but the guy didn't want to hear anything from you. I think it was just a filter test, but with someone looking at your at your computer,
Interface.
Yeah, looks like someone just the monitor examine monitor, But
Mm.
this was just one. It was just one case because most of these cases are they use it to have a Wattpad or this Codebyte equivalent for testing, or sometimes homeworks, home projects, etc. And after that, they have another technical test, and then in these technical tests, there is that we call live coding. That we have this, and all this communication brings to the table because then and after this technical test, most of the cases they have a interview with the client because most of the opportunities that we can work from remotely from Brazil are from consultants, from consultings, and this is the consultings they do the first interviews with you, and after that we will have to go to interview with the client. So there are lots of interviews when we are running for a consulting position, and
Lots,
and it
lots,
yeah,
and
lots
lots,
of
and
interviews.
lots. Every time you change customer, you do need to do another interview as well in the same
Yes,
consult.
I have a one of my mentees. They had 3 interviews with the customer, and there was a really interesting organization because there was a company here in Brazil that found him, like recruiting him. There was the company in the US that is the consulting, and there was the customer. So sometimes you get to an interview with 3 different companies because all of them have some kind of interest in you to get the job. You know, yeah. And unfortunately, most of the positions in Brazil are like that. So when you look at there are lots of interesting places like SEMA or what near shore. Do you remember near shore go is one of the consultant that helps on TDC, uh, Strider. All these consultings, when you look at it, when you go to them, you're gonna have like you can expect like at least 5 of this kind of interviews.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say that this is a starting door, right, to your international career. Going through one of
Yes.
these consulting companies, this is how it also happened to me. I entered
Hmm.
through one of these, and with that experience, you will practice your technical skills. You will practice your networking internationally. You have an international position in your LinkedIn, in your website, and then after that you start to get more attention of international recruiters. Today, I
Exactly.
don't work with a consulting anymore. I'm work directly on a company on their own product. It was great for me because when you're on a consulting company, like Pedro mentioned, you have lots of tests every time. Switch customer, you also need to do their own interview, but these are the stairs for the international career. If you want, let's I will put on my example for American companies. You go through a consulting company, and that's mostly the same case for anyone in Latin America. um, and then after that, after a time, you can move or to another consulting company, or even for one direct hiring, not directly, but they you will go build their own product, but that's not a consulting company. That I would say the closest step before working directly in the country itself, before working in US or in Canada like Pedro is right now, or like Thiago is in Portugal. And the next step would be a direct hire. But direct, why they don't hire directly? Why usually American companies don't hire you directly? There are all types of fiscal issues. They get incentives from the government to hire people with a social security number. So even if you doing the same work from where you are, if you are living in the US, you will be probably earn the double. The hard thing is to be in the US with the social security number legally. So that's why there are other opportunities in Europe. Europe, if you have visa like Thiago did, if you have citizenship like I have, and if you get visa like Pedro got for Canada, and how Gustavo is going to get his visa for Australia because he
Hmm.
wants to go with the kangaroos or some place too.
Yeah.
So you have all of these variations. So I would say that are the big three steps in your international career.
For sure.
Once you start, but I would be you want to start a consulting company is a great start. That's what I
Yes.
would think. If you're looking to companies, maybe for Canada too, for Europe. I do see that Europe wants you more to be there. I don't know, how do you see that, Thiago? Because they looks like they are more traditional in that on these things. They want you to be on site. Do you also see that as well, Thiago, when you moved for Portugal?
Do you mean about working on site?
Yeah, no, I
No,
mean,
working in Europe, not from Latin America.
yeah, yeah. Let me put me an example. I live in Brazil and I want to work for a company in Europe. They usually don't hire you for working remotely, right? They
Yeah,
want you to
yes,
be in Europe.
yes, yes. This is the most of the case. Of course, there are exceptions, but yes, because there are many rules here, many laws that you need to uh, work, at least the connection should be here. So you need to use VPNs or VMs, thing like that. So most of the case, because of these kind of problems, I'd say that at least I think it's problems. Uh, Usually these decrease a lot the productivity, in my opinion, because I have working when I travel to Brazil and I stay in Brazil. I work sometimes in Brazil abroad, and it's kind of a lot of problems that need to deal with related with connections, VPNs, things like that. So yeah, uh, because of that, this is harder to happen. Usually, companies doesn't want that, but it depends. But yes, it's harder.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
harder. I have a neighbor here that is a Brazilian as well, and he works to a bank here in Canada, RBC Bank, a big bank here. And he said, for example, that the bank doesn't allow him to work from Brazil. Like he's here, he has a SIM number, like he has a valid visa, and he can't work from Brazil. He can work from this house here, but using a VPN, using the VM, all this kind of stuff. But they can't go to Brazil because they don't allow the traffic data travel to
To
Brazil
go out
because of security
on
reasons.
network.
Yeah. So and I see that the same in Europe sometimes, and here it has a lot of things like that and all this physical stuff. So I've seen less companies allowing to hire abroad. You know, this is something that's happening in US, in Canada, and probably some government stuff. But what, and that's why I saw, yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah, I
uh,
saw that.
that's why that, yeah. For example, I've seen there is I like this guy here, the Sérgio Pereira. Sérgio Pereira is a Portuguese guy that is a fractional CTO in on Twitter, X, not Twitter anymore. But and if you look for him, this guy he's working in a job opportunities aggregator, and he focus on remote work because this guy is a remote work advocate. And and then he starts looking and say, okay, the hiring is getting high again, like the companies are hiring again, but half of the positions are on site, 30% are hybrid, and only 6%, or 6%, that just a minute. And no, and only, yeah, 4% are remote from anywhere. So this is not that good. It's completely different than we had in during the
Beginning.
pandemics or after pandemics, right? So it's exactly the movement that the company is doing for the RTO, right, return to office. So many companies are doing that. But my company, for example, they, like, 2 years ago they were hiring abroad. So they hired me, they hired another guy, and like some months later in the same year they stopped hiring abroad. It's just us. Just as I was a contractor there. So from Brazil I was using contractor, but the another guy from Morocco, he was working using uh, uh, global payroll. you know there is some global payrolls that many companies can use to hire you in your country, but as a full-time employee. But it's really, really rare currently, because of the taxes, because of the fees. It's really high. It's really high, a high fee that a company needs to pay if they hire using a global payroll. that the best way for a company is a contractor. The best way for you, if you wanted to work on a remote international job, is being a contractor. So, and most of the consultants do that. So if you work on a consultant, you must be a contractor. So yeah, be prepared in this part as well, because like you need to have a company, you need to invoice, you need to know how to handle the fiscal, you know how to handle your life, or with all everything that having a company is the comes with, you know. So that's that's something that I'd like to add.
Yeah,
I
you
think
need to
there's
know you need to know where you're targeting. We do see this decrease in remote work, but there are some companies that are still hiring, not as much as they were before, but for many places it's much more expensive to pay all the visa process instead of making continue to hiring the remotely. But there are also
Mhm.
political pressure on this as well. So
Yeah.
there are all kind of nuances. There are still remote work for anyone. And the more you're prepared, the best it's your knowledge and the best you can communicate and express this knowledge, the more opportunities you have. That's pretty clear.
Yeah, I just want to say here. Oh, bro, Pedro dropped it again. I just want to say before continue here. That was all great insights from everyone here. Just want to say a quick hello to Aisha. Hey, hello, and Job also asked what's the stream about. So today we are talking about starting an international career, dev career. So helping everyone with questions. If you have any questions regarding to that, we're very welcome here. We do talk about many topics regarding to the developer landscape. So any topic regarding to we are most of us here are Java developers, so we do talk a lot of Java environments, but we do talk about career in general. And yeah, I think Luis, do you want to share a bit of your use case that you're mentioning here?
Yeah. Bruno was talking about that career. International career is not only about you working for an international company or working abroad. And I have a small case about myself because I'm maybe one of the few here that don't have an international career, or maybe I'm starting to have an international career, but I never worked for a company abroad. But a few months ago, I decided to start writing some articles in English, and I started to post this on my LinkedIn. And as you know, I'm a professor. I teach Java at university. So these articles was about software engineering, about Java, about regex, and everything related to development. And I also started to use my GitHub with my students. My GitHub is all the information in my GitHub is in English. So I started to do this kind of things. And maybe a month or two ago, some people, an editor, reached out to me and offered me to write a book in English about software engineering. So I asked them, hey, why me? I'm, I'm, I'm not known internationally. But they say, hey, we did a survey about you. You have good relationships. So what Bruno was saying, you have to build relationships internationally. Uh, you have content in English, and you have content about software engineering, and we know what you do for a living. So we know are already know that you are an expert in software engineering. So because of that, they offered me to write this book about software engineering. So have an international career, not only by working for an international company, but through this book, software engineering in English, I can have international career also. So that's my case.
Yeah,
Congrats
and
for the book,
congrats, man.
Luis. Congrats there. And that's it.
And
This is how they found me on my last job. I was sharing in English, and they found me. The algorithm does the magic when you start sharing, when you start writing. You start to show more for the guys for recruiters on LinkedIn, and they will reach out to your blog, to your writing. They will see your content, and that's a good one. Let's reach out to him. That same thing happened to you, right? And me and Tiago, we are writing a book, not only two of us, but with more people. And welcome to the editor's world. There's a lot of work. You have no idea how many work you have, but that's awesome. That's awesome. Congrats, man.
Great. I think that was great story shared from Luis. And one thing I believe it's very important is that you don't need to stop what your current job, your current career to look after international career. There are many things that you can do together, and actually you can grow your own. It is a single career, so you can grow into it, connecting what you have and the challenges that you have today and sharing it. Probably sharing in English is the best way if you want to achieve international career. And yeah, I think that that's how things get started. I know if there's Thiago and Pedro would like to uh, wrap up this whole discussion and before we finish the session today. I'm not
I
sure if
would
there's
say
more questions also. Yeah.
I would say that we keep the gold for those of you that are still with us. Sharing English is key for your international career.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the gold key, the gold tip.
That's true.
Yes, I totally agree with Igor. If you share things in English, you train your English and you demonstrate that you know English. You also practice some technical things, so you learn more, and you'll be able to explain things, technical things in English because you're writing these kind of things in English. And also by sharing, it's like Bruno said at the beginning, by sharing you increase your networking or your friends, and by increasing this networking you have more chance and more opportunities. So yeah, I do agree with Igor. This is the goal tip.
yeah, I would say the silver tip now. So the gold is sharing, but the silver tip is be resilient because many times it's a game, a numbers game. So many times you need to when you don't have a network and you are building it, you need to work more in terms of applying, in terms of training interviews, in terms of training the tests. So yeah, don't be resilient, keep applying and training your English, share content. Yeah, all this are very important.
And
Absolutely,
before
absolutely.
finish, yeah, before finish, I just want to add here, Gustavo asked regarding to languages. Java language is a good language for some that are looking to move another country. And of course, I think both Python, Java. I think there was recent rank of the language, most used language in the world, and Java still on the top 5 languages. And there's many others, but more than languages, I believe that is the type of challenges that you are aiming for to be solving, and the best way that you can bring value for the company. So, what kind of challenge that you can actually help others to solve their problem, that's much more important than probably the language. Of course, there are some very known languages for some fields, right? But yeah, I think that's that's me. I wish to
Yeah,
answer.
a mentee of mine just got a opportunity with .NET. So
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of things that you can
my
do with many
my
languages,
na-
different languages, right?
my my neighbor got the job because he knows COBOL.
Oh my,
Really,
Kobo, really?
really.
That's that's
He
old.
he was he was retired in Brazil, and then they found him. It was one of his network, and then they discovered, oh, you know COBOL, man, you need to come here. And I say, I don't know, I'm just retired. Man, you need to come here, and he's here, work with COBOL
Oh, oh my, that's it.
in a Canadian bank. That's
That's it.
awesome.
Great, yeah.
You just put your abilities in usage. We keep talking about a lot of tools, Java, .NET, Python, like we mentioned. You can see COBOL in an international career. Java will be the next COBOL. Java is already the next COBOL, Andres. And you have mentioned before that working for a consulting company as an external contractor, you don't know how to grow because they don't care much about you. You move companies. You wanna grow, you're on a consulting company, they don't promote you, they don't raise your salary, you move companies. That's how you get promotion. And if you do that regularly, you got a promotion every year. So the
But
Yeah,
don't do that every year. But yes, I totally
yeah.
agree with you.
okay.
Every year maybe too much, but
Yeah, yeah, every year maybe
it
too much.
depends.
You need to see how things are for you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's how the it's how things are. If things are okay and you're learning, maybe what you're doing, you're learning technically, you're practicing in English if you're already in an international career. You're doing networking, maybe that's good, and an opportunity will appear at some time. If you're looking for that, if you're comfortably with that, you like what you do. Yeah, but from what you tell, they don't care much about you. Usually, consulting companies, they don't care much about you. They just want you to get the job done and to keep your customer satisfied. Don't see yourself as an employee of the company because you are not. See yourself as a company and you're offering your best to your customers. If you offer your best to your customers, they will evaluate you. And maybe, and if they are abroad, maybe after that non hiring clause goes over, it's usually 1 to 2 years. Maybe they hire you directly. Maybe you move to their country if they want you. You just give, yeah, you have Pedro as an example here. I think you just put your finger up. Want to say something about that?
No, yeah, it was exactly what happened to me. I was a
That's it.
contractor, and then they hired me directly.
And there
Now
you,
I'm here. They sponsor my visit. So yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. You have here a living example.
Okay, so I think we reached here the end of our session. I'm glad that we had lots of questions. I hope you all enjoyed the answers from our specialists, and I hope you are more have more tools to actually start your international career, dev career, and yeah, hope to see you next on the next session next week. For the next sessions, probably I will be traveling. I will be on a vacation, so I won't be here. But I will be visiting Thiago and people from Europe. So I'll be going around, and then yeah, maybe we're gonna record something. So hope to see you all. Bye bye.
Take care, Hugo. Take
See
care,
you.
guys. Pedro
Thanks.
already left. Thanks for watching, guys.
Ciao.
And
And,
bye bye.